no Clark, no A'ja Wilson, and the Fever walk out of Vegas with a 16-point win. Okay, that answered the exact question I've been asking. If you're just joining, the Indiana question all season has been pretty simple. Can the Fever survive the games Clark misses with this back issue without every possession turning into emergency offense? The working answer was Mitchell and Boston creating more, the defense tightening up, and a careful plan to fold Clark back in without flattening the rhythm this group built while she was gone.
This is the Indiana Fever Daily Podcast. Today, the win in the desert, what that week-long break actually bought them, and how the league should file a healthy-ish Indiana right now. Mitchell first.
CBS Sports writes.
Kelsey Mitchell scored 27 points. Aliyah Boston totaled 18 points and 10 rebounds, and Indiana beat the Las Vegas Aces for the first time in Las Vegas, 84-68, with a couple of All-Stars sidelined on Sunday night. Las Vegas played without A'ja Wilson, the four-time league MVP who has missed 3 straight games with an ankle injury, and Indiana's Caitlin Clark was held out for a third game as she recovers from a back injury.
27 from Mitchell, 18 and 10 from Boston, and Indiana wins in Vegas 84-68 with Clark and A'ja both in street clothes. That's exactly the answer I wanted.
That contender consistency test we framed around the Mitchell-Boston rhythm got a pretty clean answer. First ever regular season win in Las Vegas, by the way. 9 years, snapped.
9 years. And they did it on the glass, 13 offensive boards to 6. Hammond straight up said that's what buried them.
So here's the tension now. The engine just won by 16 without Clark. When she's back after missing 3 straight, how does White fold her in without stalling what's clearly working?
Right. Does she slot right back into a full workload? Or does White actually manage the minutes now that she's got proof the rotation holds up? Better problem to have than the one we started the week with.
From Jack Maloney at CBS Sports.
2 weeks ago, after the Atlanta Dream beat the Toronto Tempo to improve to 12-4 and climb into second place behind the Minnesota Lynx, they had the best offense in the league and were being hailed as title contenders. How quickly things can change. A 5-game losing streak, their longest since 2024 and the longest active one in the league, has sunk them to 7th place at 12-9, and they're now 7th in offense.
So CBS drops the power rankings, Valkyries on top, and I went straight to Indiana. 12-8 just beat a 15-6 Aces team missing its best player. I wanted to see if the ranking finally sees the Mitchell-Boston engine, or if it's still filed under Clark Health Watch.
Honestly, the louder story here is Atlanta. 2 weeks ago, they're 12-4, best offense in the league, title talk. Now it's a 5-game skid, longest active in the WNBA, and they've cratered to 7th.
And Jordan Canada out here saying she'll take the fine over the officiating on Angel Reese in the paint. I get the frustration, but 5 straight losses isn't the refs. That's the offense going cold.
Right. 12-4 to 12-9 with the same core tells you these rankings are mood rings. They move with the last 5 games, not just the roster. So I wouldn't get too high or low on where Indiana lands. Here's Tony East at the IX Sports.
Excited to practice, head coach Stephanie White said Tuesday, the first day of 3 this week that the Fever hit the court for a tune-up session. We haven't had a lot of practice time since early June, so I think for us, addressing slippage, being able to really work fine-tuning some details, and being able to add some things.
This is the piece I've been circling. The Fever got 7 days between June 27th and the Vegas game, and Stephanie White literally said, excited to practice, on Tuesday. Remember, Hull told us they hadn't had a real practice all season. And here's what makes it click for me. They use that week for more than drills, and then they walk into Vegas and beat a 15-6 Aces team by 16 without Clark or A'ja. Whatever they did, it showed up.
Careful, one road win doesn't prove the practice week was the reason. Correlation, Joey. But I'll give you this. The IX is the first outlet actually reporting on how they spent the time, not just guessing at it. And the scheduling quirk is real. 5 teams would kill for an uninterrupted 7-day breather in the middle of a compressed season. Indiana got to install things you normally can't touch until the off-season.
Right, and that's where my brain goes. If the Mitchell-Boston engine just won by 16 in the first game after the break, does White bring Clark back at full workload? Or does she protect what's working? That's a way better problem than, can they survive? With a full week off and an injury report that's still pretty crowded, what can Stephanie White actually fix right now? And what just has to wait until bodies get back?
It's a real tension, and the reporting frames it pretty cleanly. Practice can help with rotations, closeouts, defensive discipline, all the stuff White has been flagging since Game 1. After the season opener against Dallas, she said publicly that the defensive issues were all correctable. But fast forward to the Atlanta collapse, and Indiana has now surrendered double-digit leads in 6 of its last 7 games. So correctable hasn't meant corrected. This week, the realistic wins are coverages and communication, which are effort and scheme problems more than personnel problems, plus three-point shot making. After that 5 for 22 showing against Portland, White said they're getting good looks, and it's just a matter of time, so she seems to see that as reps and confidence, not a total overhaul of the offensive structure. Where it gets harder is pace and half-court spacing, because that depends so much on who's actually available. Those identity questions White's been wrestling with all season get tougher when you're shuffling lineups around injuries instead of building towards something stable.
White has talked about not being able to outscore teams in this league. So if the defense isn't fixed, is there actually a version of this team that wins close games down the stretch?
That's the problem. White said it herself early in the season. We put a lot of pressure on our offense to be perfect when we don't consistently defend. Until the injury report clears and she can build a consistent rotation, especially one where the second unit isn't bleeding leads every time the starters sit, those late-game collapses are going to keep happening. The week off buys time to install things mentally. Then it comes down to whether the right personnel is healthy enough to execute them.
If you're enjoying the Indiana Fever Daily podcast, take a moment to subscribe or leave a quick review wherever you're listening. It really helps other Fever fans find the show, and it keeps us growing. If you want to dig deeper, we've put links to every story from today's episode in the show notes. Tap through to the ones you want to spend a little more time with. That's Indiana Fever Daily podcast for today. This is a Lantern podcast.